And I went over to my kitchen window. I live in the 5th floor of a 5-story building. And I went over to my kitchen window and I waited and I looked up and I waited and I waited, and it seemed like, I guess, 30 seconds. I heard this low-flying plane, and as I think back on it, it must have really been noisy for me to go to the window to look. And finally, it came into view, and it flew just, I guess, to my right, and of course up. And I thought it was going down. I live between University and Broadway, and I thought it was going down University Place, following University Place. And I looked up at it, and I thought instantly a few things. I thought, number one, I was glad I didn't live in the LaGuardia or Kennedy corridor, and I remembered when I was 5 years old, and I was on the patio in our backyard in Louisville, Kentucky, and I remember a low-flying plane above the trees in our backyard, and I remember my father saying, "Oh, that's the 520 from New York." Well, all these things popped into my head as I'm waiting for the plane to go over, and I see the plane, and it looks like from my view up, it looks just like a white plastic kid's toy, like a plane like this size that a child would be playing with. And I thought there was something peculiar about it looking like this plastic toy. I mean, I remembered that. I didn't think it was peculiar, but I remembered that. And it passed, and I went back, and I poured my coffee, and I went in, and I sat down and turned on the news to CNN. And there was all this, and the plane hit the World Trade Center, and all this commotion, and I'm watching it, and I'm thinking, oh, gee, this must have happened in the middle of the night or hours ago. And I didn't know whether I should go in and wake up my son, and I decided, well, this is important. I'll go in and wake up my son. I went in and I woke Aaron up, and I said, "Aaron, get up. A plane just hit the World Trade Center." And he said, "Oh, okay, okay." And he rolled over, and I went back, and I'm watching. And I'm watching this other plane, which I thought was probably a news plane. And I watch it on TV. It seemed that it went behind the tower. It went behind one of the towers, I think the one that was burning. And there was a fireball, and I thought it was the World Trade Center that was burning, further exploding. And then I heard him say on the news, "We're not sure, but we think a second plane is hit." And I thought, how could they be so irresponsible to say that? That's not what happened. And then I realized 5 minutes later that's really what had happened. And I went back in and I got Aaron up and I said, "A second plane's hit the World Trade Center," at which point he bounded out of bed. When I first told him about the first one, he said he thought it was like the plane that had hit the Empire State Building many years prior, that it hit the Empire State Building and sort of bounced off and there was minimal damage. After that, I guess like everybody else, we watched, and then we ran down to University and 10th Street. My son had to call me from downstairs and say, "Mom, you've got to come down here," because I was just stuck to the TV. I couldn't take my eyes away. And then I went down to the corner with Aaron, my son, and my husband was there, and we just stood there, and watched it burn. And watched it fall. And at the end of University, in the distance, there's a building that's maybe, I don't know, 20 or 30 stories high. And behind that building is the World Trade Center. And I was never aware of that building before. But when the World Trade Center fell, the first one and the second one, this building was high enough from our perspective that the Trade Center just disappeared, and there was just one standing, and then the second one disappeared. And you didn't see any of the rubble or the smoke flying up because of this building in the way. And it was very unreal. Um, it was just like they were toys and they had fallen over. And it wasn't until, I don't know, 2 or 3 days later that I realized that the plane I had seen over my kitchen window, I live on 10th Street. So, you know, I live in the Village, so I wasn't that far from the World Trade Center, a mile, 2 miles, whatever it is. I realized that the plane I had seen that I thought that looked like a toy was the plane that hit. That when I turned on the TV, it had obviously just happened seconds before or a minute before. And I realized that the reason the plane looked like a toy, what it seemed strange to me was that the landing gear, it had no landing gear. And I've never looked up in the sky and seen a plane that close to the ground that didn't have its landing gear down. It was just like a smooth plastic toy. I didn't know anybody in the World Trade Center. I don't know anyone who died. I didn't know any firemen or policemen.